Gentlemen, what is going on today? My name is Ryan Mickler. I'm the host and the founder of the Order of Man podcast and movement. Welcome here and welcome back. Today is your Friday Field Notes. I'm going to share some thoughts with you that have been bouncing around in my brain over the past little while. That's what I do on these Friday Field Notes. But if you're not yet subscribed, make sure you are, because we also have interviews with very, very successful individuals, guys like Ed Milet and Tim Tebow and Dan Crenshaw and Ben Shapiro and Dave Ramsey, Jocko Willing, David Goggins. The men that we've had on this podcast are some phenomenally successful individuals in all walks of life. And I want to give that information to you as I learn from them, as I extract some of their wisdom and try to become a better man myself. We also have our Wednesday show, which is our Ask Me Anything, where we field questions from our exclusive brotherhood, the Iron Council, or from our Facebook group over at facebook.com/groups/order of man. All right, guys, as you can see, I got to say this first. I've got, it's starting to get a little cold here. I'm cold right now. It's a little cold here in Maine today, and I'm feeling fall in the air. So I've got my, well, it's almost like a Mr. Rogers sweater with a little style. It's got the camo on there, but yeah, I'm getting cold. I'm starting to cool off. So that's why I got the sweater on today. I'm not ready to turn that heat on, because once I do, it doesn't go off. So I'm not messing with that yet. But I wanted to talk with you about having men in your corner and the importance of that. Now, let me throw this disclaimer out here. This is could be perceived as a little self-serving, because our exclusive brotherhood, the Iron Council, just opened up. And if you don't know what that is, it's a group of men who are all working together on improving ourselves, trying to hold ourselves to the highest standard possible, learning what those standards are, having metrics and systems and accountabilities and processes for improving ourselves and helping other men improve in their lives. So that has opened up, which is the reason that I wanted to talk with you about this today. But whether or not you want to join the Iron Council, I've got about 5 points here, maybe six, 5 or 6 points here that make sense, whether it's in the Iron Council or whether you're wanting to band with men outside of the Iron Council in your area, wherever that may be. So if you're not interested in joining, no worries. There's still a lot of value for you here. If you are interested in joining, this is going to give you some insight into what we do. And of course, you can check it out at orderofman.com/iron council. So let's talk about this. Do you have men in your corner? The first thing we need to understand is that this is actually important. And it really isn't, or it doesn't seem important until it hits the fan and things go south. You have a problem with business, you have a health scare, you have a challenge in your relationship, you have financial troubles. Like, there's so many different things that could come up. And having other men in your corner doesn't seem like a priority when everything's going well. But when there's something that's off, something that messes with us in our lives, we realize very, very quickly that for most of us, we haven't done a great job of bringing men around us. And I know that I've done that. I know that there's hundreds, thousands, probably millions of men who haven't done that. And they face some real world consequences of not having these guys in their corner. And that could be depression, even leading to suicidal thoughts or actions. It could be that there's just a whole lot of anxiety or even confusion about what they might be able to do in their situation and what they're dealing with. But man, there's just a lot of support that comes from having men in your corner. And it's just something that society doesn't really address all that often. I think if we were to look at women, they generally do a better job at this. They're more relational, I think, by nature. And men can be relational too, but we don't focus on each other. We usually focus outward. That's why teams, for example, relational, we're all working together, but we're trying to beat that other team. Or in the military, yes, we're all working together and cooperating and communicating, but it's so we can defeat the enemy. Whereas women turn inwards. It's like the relationship for the sake of the relationship. And what I found for me is, especially over the past several months, as I've had things that I've been working through personally, where I do have men who I can communicate with, and men that I can talk with, and men that I can bend their ear and get their advice and get their input. And it's been extremely valuable. In fact, it's been invaluable for me as I've struggled with some of these challenges. So, really take an inventory. Do you have men in your life that you communicate with frequently, that you can hold their feet to the fire? They can hold their your feet to the fire. That you can lean on each other if needed, that you can support each other and uplift and edify, that you can be honest with. They can be honest with you. And if you don't have that, then I would encourage you to get that, even if you don't think you need it. It's like that old adage of when is the best time to plant a tree? It's before you need the shade. So I don't want you to get into a shady situation and not have planted the tree of masculine relationships. So do that now, regardless of where you are. But let's talk about some qualifying factors that you should look into when it comes to building your band of brothers, or at a minimum, identifying people, men, who you would like to have in your corner and you would like to be in their corner. Number one is they should be successful. Now, when I say successful, I'm talking about success in the areas of life in which you want to be successful. They don't need to all make $1 million a year. They don't need to drive a certain car, or live in a certain neighborhood, or wear a certain watch. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that they should be successful in the area that you want to be successful in. So if you want to be a great husband and a great father, then you really need to be looking for men who identify, or not identify, who exhibit those characteristics, who are great fathers, who are engaged husbands, who are married, who have worked through problems in their marriage. If you want to be successful in business, then you need to find guys who own businesses, guys who have started businesses. And look, even guys who have lost businesses, because they can teach you what didn't work. Guys that have lost and rebuilt, and you just need to be selective. Discriminate's a bad word in culture today, but you do need to discriminate to a degree, without the negative connotation, of course, but you do need to discriminate based on who you want to have in your corner. Like, this is just not an open invite. This is not anybody comes. No, I'm going to be clear. I'm going to be concise. I'm going to write down what kind of men I want to attract in my corner, what their level of success is in their family, in their business, in their community, in their wealth, in their health, every facet of their lives. And then, and only then, can you begin to identify who it is that you want to have in your corner. So make sure that you're not just inviting your neighbor Bob over to dump all your problems on Bob because he's convenient and he happens to live next door to you. If Bob's not on the same page and Bob isn't successful and Bob might not even be interested in what you're interested in, then that's probably not going to be a good fit. So many of us men live our lives by default, where if we want to have a friend or a buddy or a band of brothers, it's Bob, right? He lives right next door. It's easy. It's convenient. I don't have to work any harder. Or it's Steve at the office. Okay, that could work, but not by default. We need to be more deliberate and intentional about it. So make sure you're evaluating them. Again, it's not that everything in their life is perfect. It's that they have a measure of success, or they have a level of experience where they're credible to talk with you about the things that you want to talk about and the things that are important to you. Number two, I'm actually going to change this a little bit. I'm going to change the order. So number one is, and these aren't in any order, but I want to save this one for last because it's something that I'm learning is very, very important. But number two, in addition to being successful, is that they need to have some sort of shared value or belief system. Now, they don't need to believe everything that you do. Okay. They don't need to believe even in the same God as you. Or be the same denomination of Christian or whatever it might be as you. They don't need to work in the same field as you, but there has to be some shared values, some shared belief system. Imagine trying to work with a company that's going to send a man to Mars. Okay, there's going to be different systems we need to focus on. There's propulsion, there's guidance, there's I don't know, entering the atmosphere of Mars. There's landing. There's how do we take care of oxygen? And there's so many different systems when it comes to putting a man on Mars, right? So everybody's going to come at it with their own unique perspective. Propulsion is going to look at it different than how are we going to drive on the surface of Mars. They're going to look at different things. But I'll tell you what, one thing they all have in common is they all know math and they all agree on the math. That's the belief system, right? They all know that 2 + 2 = 4. Because if they didn't believe that 2 + 2 = 4, then nothing else would matter. And that's what I'm saying when it comes to having these men in your corner, this band of brothers, if you will, is that, yeah, you can see things differently. You can come from different walks of life. You can have even some different goals. But at the fundamental root level of who you guys are, you should all agree that 2 + 2 = 4. So, what could that possibly be? Well, there's a higher power. That might be a shared belief system. Or at a minimum, that there's some sort of moral compass that we all agree on, which is right and moral in the way that we are ethical in the way that we should be behaving, or the way that we want to show up as righteous protectors, providers, presiders. And if somebody sees that completely different, I mean, nothing else really matters. So if you start to get a hint from these guys that they have not a different perspective, or not they're from a different socioeconomic status or a different geographical area, or their skin pigmentation is darker or lighter, no, okay, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about their shared belief system. This is like that whole concept of diversity. Diversity is strength. No, diversity is diversity. It's neither strength nor weakness. Okay, if we're talking about people coming from different walks of life, then diversity could be utilized to shore up weaknesses, to look for threats, to improve ourselves, to increase our odds of identifying what could potentially go wrong or looking for opportunities that we can capitalize on. Okay, but again, if we don't believe that 2 + 2 = 4, okay, well, there's not much more to talk about. So make sure that the guys in your corner and the guys that you're looking at have some sort of shared values and or belief systems. Okay. Number 3 is they're open to discussing these ideas, to discussing improvement in your relationship, in your business. We're all in different places in our lives, and some guys are very guarded. Some guys are very closed. Some guys don't want to be open to your influence or your thoughts, or maybe you don't want to be open to somebody else's influence or thoughts. And if the guys that you're looking at are not open, I mean, maybe they'll make a great golf buddy or a lake buddy, but they're probably not going to be this band of brothers kind of guy. They're just not, because they're not open in a way that you need them to be open with. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about what they should be open with. But again, if they're not open and receptive to learning, to growing, to be more than just your weekend beer and barbecue buddy or the golf group, that's fine. But those are just friends. These are not band of brothers. Look for somebody who's open. And how do you do this? Well, you talk about it. Hey man, like here's what I'm looking for. Even this, here's what I'm struggling with right now. Have you ever struggled with that? If they're like, no, I don't struggle with that. Okay, that's an indicator that maybe they're not open to having these types of discussions. If on the other hand, you say, hey man, I'm really struggling with addiction right now, or I'm struggling in my relationship, or I'm struggling in my business, or I'm struggling with self-confidence or being accepted or whatever. Uh, and and you ask, have you ever dealt with that? And they're like, oh yeah, I really deal with it. In fact, I'm dealing with this right now. And this is what I've been doing. And this is how I've been trying to work on it. What are you doing? Okay. Now you have somebody who's like, cool, this is good. Like this is moving in the right direction. This is somebody who's open and receptive to the idea of talking through these issues, being a sounding board, helping us unpack and discover the things that we need, but they got to be open. Okay. So again, number 1, they've got to be successful in an area that you want to be successful in. Not that they've never had failures, but that they've risen from the ashes and they are a success to some degree. Okay. Number 2 is that they have to have some shared values and or belief system. Number 3 is they have to be open to this relationship. If they're not to the type of relationship you want, then that's just not going to work. Number 4 is there has to be some sort of process or system in place. Because what I'm not talking about is having casual friends. There's nothing wrong with casual friends. Okay. But I'm not talking about your fantasy football league. Now, some of the guys might be more in your inner circle, and I'm not talking about your beer and barbecue buddy on the weekend, and I'm not talking about the golf guy. I'm talking about somebody who's it's deeper, it's committed, there's accountability, and like I said a second ago, there's a process or a system in place to ensure that you guys are doing what needs to be done. Um, I've got a friend who I meet with just about for the past, I would say, 4 to 5 weeks. I meet with just about every week. We go to breakfast together and we talk about what we're struggling with, and we talk about the gospel, and we talk about spirituality and faith and relationships and the things that we're dealing with our spouses and the things that we're dealing with our kids. Okay, that's a process. Now, it's not a formalized, structured, that, 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 but it's just a process that we're using. It's very informal to make sure that we're actually talking about things that are meaningful rather than just, how's the weather or how's your day. Like that stuff's important, I guess, sure. But again, this is something deeper and more meaningful. And so when you're looking for guys to be in this band of brothers with you, like I would suggest to them, hey, what if we got on a call every Wednesday and just kind of hashed out some things that we were dealing with throughout the week? Or what if we went to the gym every Thursday morning, Tuesday and Thursday morning, and on the drive over, we could hold each other accountable. Like I could ask about your goals, you could ask about mine. You see what I'm saying? Like there's actually there's thought and intent behind it rather than just, hey bud, what's up? I'm not into that. I'm not looking for that. I need somebody who I can really do this life thing with. It'd be like a soldier, like a warrior, 100, 200, 500, 1,000 years ago. And it's like, hey, you want to hang out? It's like, no, I don't want to hang out. I want to train so that we can make sure we can defend our village and defend our families. And in order to do that, we're gonna work offense. We're gonna work military tactics. We're gonna work whatever it is. But there's a system in place. That's what I'm saying. There's intent behind it. So we've got success, we've got shared values and or belief system. They've got to be open to the idea. We've got to have a process or a system in place. And this is the one that I shifted around. This is one of the things that's very, very important that myself and so many other people overlook. You need to have somebody who's willing to be honest and bold with you. And that's one that a lot of us struggle with. And it's not only something that we struggle with finding in other guys, it's something that we struggle in doing for other people. And when you're honest and bold with other people you care about, you actually are doing them a service. So many of us don't want to do it because we're uncomfortable with it. So if you notice a guy who's in your corner or you're in his corner and something's off or something's wrong, or you notice behavior in him that isn't really like him, or he's doing something that he shouldn't be engaged in, then you need to be the guy that says, hey, buddy, you're doing this thing. I've known you for 3 years and you're going on this path and you should not be on this path. What can we do to get you off this path? That's what's missing. That right there is missing in so many men's lives, myself included. And if I'm looking at it fairly and accurately, I've done a pretty good job building up friends, battle brothers, band of brothers, whatever you want to look at it as. And of course, we've got the Iron Council and men who listen to the podcast. But I don't have a lot of guys, and I'm not putting this on them. I'm actually putting it on me. I don't have a lot of guys who are willing to be honest and bold and really get in my face in a caring way in my corner. And that's what I need. And I'm imagining, because that's what I need, that's what other men need too, is somebody who can check you. I had that in sports. If you were slacking off or you weren't doing what you needed to be doing, I had buddies who were like, bro, what's up? Like your head's not here today. You're better than that. What's going on with you? Had it in the military for sure. There was this level of accountability. And then you get out of those things and you just don't have that. And you need it. And you need to be that for somebody else. Honest, bold, and a level of care. Like more care for the individual than your own feelings. Because isn't that why we don't share things that are uncomfortable? It's not because we want to salvage or spare that person from the pain. It's we don't want to be in an uncomfortable and awkward position. Oh man, I could really talk to him about the way that he's treating his kids, but I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to bring that up. Yeah, because it's uncomfortable for you. So in that situation, what are we more concerned with? That person or our own feelings? And I would submit to you that more often than not, at least in my case, that I've been more interested in my feelings and the way I feel than I do my level of care for that individual I could otherwise serve. So if you have somebody in your corner who's, I won't say a liar necessarily, but isn't willing to be honest or bold or courageous when it comes to confronting you, maybe they're not strong enough or confident enough, then that's probably not going to be your Band of Brothers guy. Could be a friend, could be a family member, could have some good interactions with him, could play some great golf with him or go bowl or whatever it is you do. But that's probably not a Band of Brothers guy. You need somebody, and that's the hard part is when you find that you're uncomfortable with it too, because they're going to tell you things that are true that you don't want to hear. I've had some guys in my life over the past couple of months tell me some things, and I'm like, you're an a-hole. I didn't say that to him, but in my mind, I'm thinking, this guy is a real jerk for saying that. And then I sit on it for a minute. I'm like, oh no, he's actually right. He's not a jerk. He actually cares about me. And so he's saying something that's truthful so that I can improve and get better in my life and be in a better position. And it's been really uncomfortable, but it's also been really helpful. So I hope that gives you some ideas. Again, I don't care what, it's not that I don't care. I do care. I would love for you to join the Iron Council. Again, that's our exclusive brotherhood where we've got guys from quite literally all over the world working together and trying to improve in each of these areas, becoming successful. We have shared values and belief systems. They wouldn't join if that weren't the case. Many of them have been listening to the Order of Man podcast for years and years and years. That they're open to the idea of growth and progress. Of course, they wouldn't be in it. Number four, there's a process and a system in place. Of course, we've built that over the past 7 years. And then the last, again, being honest and bold, being willing to confront, willing to get into your face, proverbial face, not literally, I guess maybe literally as well, but definitely metaphorically, and say and do what needs to be said and done to get your butt back on track. If you can find that on your own, do that on your own. And there are guys that do that. If you can find that in your office or maybe through some sort of civic organization or business meeting or other organization, by all means. If you feel like you want some help with it, then join us in the Iron Council. We're open right now and we'll be open for another 14 days. And that's it. And then we're closing down until the end of the year. So your next time to get in won't be until January 2023. I'd love to see you inside. I'd love to have you be part of it, to be with us. But you can make those decisions for yourself. Regardless, I hope that these key factors served you in some way, and that you'll be diligent in finding these kind of men, and also becoming this kind of men for yourself and for other people. I hope that helps, gentlemen. Go to the Iron Council sign up page and learn more about what we're doing at orderofman.com/Iron Council, or hit me up on Instagram. Very active there. I've been less active on the posting, but if you hit me in the DMs, still pretty active there. Would love to connect with you guys. That's it, guys. That's all I've got. We'll be back next week. Ed Milet is on the podcast. So next week, make sure you subscribe, leave that rating and review, check out the Iron Council, and we'll see you next week. Go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.